Do you sometimes feel that your math class is intentionally just boring busy work? Then check out this story from the mathematician Carl Gauss. In 1787, young Carl was a 10-year-old student in Braunschweig, Germany. His school was especially dismal, with dark, low-ceiling classrooms and abusive teachers. There was a teacher at the school named Büttner. Although Büttner enjoyed intimidating his students, he found that a long day of teaching required too much work. Therefore, he would give his students interminable, tedious tasks to keep them all busy so he was able to relax. As the story goes, on one occasion he gave his class the assignment to add together all the numbers between 1 and 100. He presumed this would afford him a relaxing afternoon of watching students tap away at their slates. However, he had barely finished his instructions when his student, the young Carl Gauss, stood up from his desk, walked to the front of the class, and turned in his slate on Büttner's large desk with an offhanded, "There you go." Young Carl sat quietly for the rest of the afternoon while the other students finished their addition, and Büttner planned how he would beat his arrogant student for avoiding his classwork. One by one, the other students turned in their slates on top of Carl's. When they had all been turned in, Büttner ripped out Carl's slate from the bottom to see what nonsense he had submitted. To his astonishment, he saw Carl had the correct answer, and the only number on the slate was the answer. He had written no calculations whatsoever. How did he do it? How could he avoid such boring, repetitive work and still get the right answer? It's not certain exactly what approach Gauss used, but with the speed at which he solved it, he probably thought along these lines. Consider the numbers 1 through 100 drawn out end to end, with 1 on one side and 100 on the other. If we add the first and last number in the sequence, 1 plus 100, we get 101. If we move in one step to 2 and 99 and add those together, you again get 101. Moving in one more step to 3 and 98, those also total 101. The pattern continues throughout the entire sequence of numbers until we meet at the exact center at 50 plus 51 equaling 101. To get a better look at this relationship, let's encode these numbers as little squares, starting with a single square, a stack of 2 squares, then 3 squares, and so on, growing up in a sort of staircase shape to the tallest stack of 100 squares. Büttner's addition task now becomes simply counting up the total number of squares in this shape. We can make this staircase shape easier to measure by splitting it along the middle between 50 and 51 and fitting the pieces together to form a rectangle. We're adding numbers to make 101 a total of 50 times, giving us a rectangle with the width of 50 squares and a height of 101 squares. The total number of squares is 50 times 101, which is 5,050. So there you go. This pattern can work to add together any sequence of numbers. So let's look for a general description of this pattern. The height of the rectangle is the sum of the first and last numbers. The width of the rectangle is the total number of digits being added, divided in half. The area of the rectangle is these two values multiplied together. We can continue to build on this basic pattern and see the big takeaway from all this in part 2. So follow me and check out the comments for a link to part 2. Thanks.